Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to some more Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, and today we're going to be diving in with the brand new update for the Eagle Rising mod. If you have never heard of this mod before, it basically goes ahead and transforms Calradia into the era of antiquity, and it is really awesome, adding in Romans, Dacians, Germanians, Barbarians, Scythians, and so much more. Of course, not forgetting the most amazing Carthaginians, which were in the more recent update. They look absolutely incredible. On top of that, this mod also does work with the Europe map, so if you are a bit sick of Calradia, you can jump over and go ahead and take a look at that and mess around with it. It's really easy to do, and with the recent release of the Steam Workshop, both mods are on there, so it is super easy to go ahead and download. I'll link both of them down below in the description if you want to check them out. So this video is definitely going to be for those of you who have maybe not been keeping up to date with the mod, or maybe just haven't seen this one before, because not much has changed in the more recent update. They're currently hard at work removing a lot of the vanilla assets and adding in the Germanian faction, which is going to be up in the north. So until that comes, the majority of the content is still very much on the older version, just with more fixes and a few more assets and other lovely stuff like that. However, that definitely does not mean that there is not plenty of content in this. This is definitely the biggest historical mod out there that you can go ahead and mess around with, so I highly recommend it. And of course, it is absolutely amazing on the Europe map as well. That thing just goes ahead and it's just so goddamn awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we actually have currently, and again, all these factions are going to be mirrored on that Europe map as well. So if you're playing that and you want to know where the factions are going to be, I obviously put something on your screen previously where you can check it out. But again, wherever the Western Romans are, that's going to be where they are on the Europe map, and vice versa. It basically goes ahead and just replaces them. It's a really nice system. So off into the east, we do have the Dacians. They're going to be currently kind of taking up residence where the Landia are, and you can see their roster. Each faction has a pretty diverse roster, which is really nice. So many different variants. You can see even these normal lowly tier 1 Dacians have 8 different variants to them, different weapons, different armors, shields, etc. It's a really nice system. As you go down the line as well, you'll be able to see, each of these have a ton of different variants. I mean, look at this. The tier 4 sword infantry have 15 different variants. It really goes ahead and makes kind of every single faction feel very unique, and not that every soldier is the same is absolutely amazing. So yes, the Dacians are down here with a very nice roster. They of course also have their own noble troop line as well, which of course can be found at any castle, and again, these guys are deadly. The Dacians are ferocious warriors, very aggressive faction, and look absolutely amazing. Then up in Britannia, we do have the Gauls. They are going to be situated in the high mountains and forest lands of where Britannia resides, and again, as you guys can see, their roster is extremely vast, several different unit types, several different armor types, and a very fun roster to mess around with. Their archers are very deadly, their cavalry is good, and of course their infantry is very aggressive, and they do number pretty largely. When you come up against a large number of them, even the more elite Roman shield walls will start to crumble. Speaking of which, Rome is probably the largest faction. They are currently situated with 3 kingdoms, obviously the North, East, and West Roman Empire factions are on the campaign map. Eventually what they want to do is they want to cut this down to just having 2 Empire factions, and then the Greeks are going to make up a large portion of the land that is taken away from them. And the cool thing is, the plan is to have the Romans basically in this constant civil war until one is victorious, and that's just kind of a little bit of a glimpse of how they want to kind of progress later on down the line when a lot more of the factions are fully complete. Rome of course has one of the largest rosters available to them. They have a very nice legionary troop line with 20 different variants. I mean, just look at how many different variants that they do have. It is kind of incredible, and each of these are just so skillfully done, and again, just every single one of these just looks absolutely incredible. I'm sure some people in the comments will be like, what the heck? Why do we have legionaries with kind of mixed in with like Marian troops and stuff like that? This mod doesn't aim to be historically accurate or set in a specific historical time period. That's not their goal. They're just creating a cool antiquity mod. There are going to be plenty of other mods out there that are currently in development, which will focus on more kind of general stuff like that. Again, you can see some of the noble troop line here as well, looking very, very cool. But yeah, that's not exactly their plan. They don't want to go ahead and create something like that. They're just creating a cool mod with lots and lots of cool units in. So just kind of keep that in mind. There are also several troop trees for the Romans. So they have the auxiliary troop tree right here, where you can see the soldiers themselves. So the auxiliaries are going to make up the large portion of the archers, the slingers, and also, of course, the spearmen. And then the Roman kind of more heavy infantry line is made up right here. So the Romans have several different troop lines you can go down, and of course they also have crossbowmen and their noble troop line. So a pretty diverse roster, a roster that you're going to be able to basically mix and match as you go further forward. And also mercenaries as well are kind of pretty prominent as well. For example, if I just grab them ones, you can see the mercenary troop line right here. Again, pretty vast. So you got bowmen, you got kind of more elite mercenary cavalry, which look incredible, and also some heavier infantry as well, which are more dismounted. So the mercenary lines have been kind of really kind of split out, and I think it gives a lot of like extra flavor to the factions. Speaking of mercenaries, we of course could not go ahead and speak about them without mentioning Carthage. Carthage go ahead and take up residency where the Azorite are. However, this will eventually be shrunk down, and as the Persians take up the majority of the desert, the Carthaginians will be more of a coastal faction. So they'll lose a lot of these other settlements right here to the Persians, who will kind of take up the majority of this land. However, the Persians, I think, are much more later on down the line. They want to add in the Greeks before them, as well as the Germanians, which are the next faction, which are up on the chopping board. Quickly to mention as well, the Germanians are not in the game yet. However, of course, as I said, are planned to be added in, and they're going to take up where the Sturgians are. Once the Germanians are in and the Sturgians are replaced, that's going to be every single faction in the vanilla-based game completely replaced, and then they're going to go on a pretty kind of hardcore purge, I guess, and remove every single vanilla asset that doesn't fit the mod, which is absolutely awesome. I'm a big fan of that. It'll completely immerse you in the game, and then they're going to look to start kind of divvying up factions. I believe all the barbarians are going to be split into multiple different tribes, so there's not going to be one big power block. The Romans, as I said earlier, are going to be split into two factions with a big civil war. It's going to make for a much more interesting campaign, I think, not having these big factions, but having much smaller ones that kind of unify, and one maybe becomes a bit more powerful and then dominates the rest, which is going to be cool. But back to Carthage, we're going to go ahead and enter a town and take a little look-see at their roster. So Carthage, I think, have one of the larger rosters compared to maybe Rome. Definitely very comparable. They have several different troop trees, so they have this really kind of awesome basic kind of sword infantry troop line. These are very aggressive soldiers. They're very good about two-handed skills, and as you can see, there are several different variants to them, all a nice little mix right there. They have their cavalry, again, several different variants to the cavalry, and also, of course, the slingers, looking very, very cool. However, that is not the only thing that they have access to. They also have access to the Spanish mercenaries as well, so the Spanish are going to be a faction that they can recruit from very, very effectively. Right here, looking very awesome indeed. I mean, these highborn warriors are just, yeah, insane. And again, these guys come with just some really aggressive fighting. They have 2 javelins, which are very, very decent javelins as well, so they're going to be able to break shields very effectively, which is very important when fighting Rome, and also just in this mod in general, because a lot of units in this mod have very, very large scale shields, which give them a lot of protection from range units. So infantry and cavalry are really the name of the game. On top of them 2 rosters, they also have a hoplite variant and Furios. So again, the hoplite variant goes all the way down here to the left, and I just love the look of these guys. I mean, look at that armor. And then we also have more of a kind of, I guess, aggressive spear infantry / sword infantry. These are going to be your light moving units, your flanking units, which are very, very beautiful. And then finally, they also have a Numidian troop line as well. So the Carthaginians are just kind of a jack of all trades. They have a unit that they can pick from somewhere to bring into their roster. And again, these guys are great, very light infantry, lots of javelins. Their skirmisher cavalry is going to be second to none, and their bowmen are very good. You're going to want to use these guys as an archer force because they're going to do a lot of damage. They have a lot of decent arrows, and also that bow is very, very deadly. And also, not to mention as well, their actual heroes look incredible as well. The armor on these heroes look absolutely insane. Then finally, we do have the Scythians, which kind of represent where the Kuzites are based, and again, they're going to be very much that heavy cavalry feel. Their heavy lances are deadly. Their horse archers are super scary, fast moving, and they can really get themselves stuck into combat whenever they need to. The infantry, of course, is going to be a little bit lackluster, but they still have some decent armor and some decent weaponry that can really kind of act up and hold the line whilst their cavalry does the work. But for the most part, you're going to be relying heavily on these horses because, yeah, they are very scary, and the lancers just have such high level stats that they can rip through the majority of what they come up against. So that's going to be basically every faction. As I mentioned, the Sturgeons are still the Sturgeons. However, this is the faction that they are currently replacing. However, these units aren't the only changes to the mods. So of course they've gone in and they've edited a lot of the armor values and stuff. That's all kind of in the mod as well. But there are also some underlying mechanics which are really fun to mess around with. So we do have this amazing specialist recruitment system, which is probably one of my favorite features in the mod, because I've always wanted higher tier units to be a bit more restrictive, something where maybe you can't have as many of them, or you have to really work to get them, and this system does exactly that. I mean, these are very good units. They're expensive to upkeep and they're hard to get, but they go ahead and kind of make it when you do get them that is definitely worth it. So each of these go ahead and offer certain bonuses. So for example, the Octio will give you an additional 10 party size, the Centurion will give you an additional 15 party size, and all of these do stack, which does mean that you can have some pretty high tier and large scale parties with these guys. However, they are hard to come by. You do need to get the highest tier legionary to then upgrade that legionary to one of these soldiers. So for example, I'm going to have a tier 6 normal troop to then upgrade into one of these. On top of that, you do have a capacity of them, so you can't have as many. I have player switched to Rhaegar right here, so oh goddamn Rhaegar, put some clothes on. Yeah, we've gone ahead and transferred to the Empress, so that's why I can actually have access to so many of these guys. In your playthrough, you're going to be able to get maybe 1 or 2 of each of these as you level up and continue to go up the clan rank. As you get to these Vexillas and the banner carriers, you can see they also do provide their own party morale, and you can also finally get some bodyguards as well. So whenever you're moving around a city, these guys will come along with you, and if you get into any kind of scraps with maybe bandit gangs or anything, these dudes will come in clutch because they're a very strong unit. And you can also see as well their stats are incredible, so they definitely kind of come in and really get stuck in, and they're more equipped to deal with the average battle. On top of that, we also have a new city management system, which I really like. This is definitely one of the systems in just vanilla Bannerlord that is desperate for a rework, because let's be honest, the vanilla building system is so lackluster and very boring. So hopefully Tailboards go in and change this up at some point in the future. But the modders have decided to add in 4 brand new systems down here in the south, each of them providing bonuses. The urban infrastructure going ahead and giving you more food storage as you build it up, as well as reducing the overcrowding effect that you'll get as your prosperity increases, which is really nice. The next one is military infrastructure, which will go ahead and give you more garrison, more prisoner size, and also more militia growth as well. So you'll be able to basically have much larger garrisons in your cities the more you focus on. The next is civilian infrastructure, which will go ahead and give you more loyalty and influence. And then finally we have a rural infrastructure, which will give you more food production and also more hearth growth, which means you'll be getting higher tier soldiers from your cities. Each of these are really good, and I very much like the way that they've gone ahead and done this, because you basically are investing in removing the negatives you get as your city grows. And I think that's just a really cool system. It makes sense. On top of that, it also means that you can go for a very tall build in this mod. So you can have maybe 1 or 2 cities, but they could be like 2 very developed mega cities that have really high garrisons that don't receive massive loyalty negatives from being really prosperous, which means it will be making you loads of money, and so on and so on. So you can basically play as like a Greek city-state in this mod, and I think this is kind of the idea they're going for, and it's just a really cool system. So that is basically going to be the Eagle Rising mod. Definitely go check it out. You can combine it with a handful of other mods. Hopefully you got a good glimpse of kind of what is available at the current stage in the mod, and definitely let me know in the comments down below if this is a mod that you're going to be playing now that it has been updated for the latest patch of a Bannerlord. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to go ahead and drop a like and a comment down below. It really does help out the channel, and I very much do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.